My name is Lauren, and everything changed for me on my 15th birthday. What seemed like a normal family life was about to unravel in ways I could never have anticipated. Let me introduce you to my family. On the surface, we were just like any other family. My dad worked tirelessly, my mom stayed at home, and I had a younger sister named Olivia, who was 8 years younger than me. My dad managed a significant company that originally belonged to my grandmother on my mom's side. Grandma was a remarkable woman with an ambitious spirit. She began with a few laundromats and eventually expanded into creating laundry detergents and household cleaning products. When she decided to retire, she offered the company to my mom. However, Mom wasn't interested, so Dad took the reins. That's when things began to spiral out of control. Remember the day when everything began to fall apart. I was in my room, trying to concentrate on my homework, when I heard my mom yelling at Dad downstairs. "You're nothing but a loser, Frank. This is my house, my family's business. You should be grateful I let you run it." The arguments grew more frequent and intense in the weeks that followed. Mom and Dad barely spoke, and when they did, it was always to argue. I did my best to keep Olivia entertained, but even at her tender age, she sensed something was wrong. The turning point came one afternoon. I came home from school to find Dad standing in the living room with a suitcase by his side. "Dad," I asked, my voice trembling. "What's happening?" He walked over and embraced me tightly. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," he said. "I can't stay here any longer. It's not good for anyone." I felt suffocated by the weight of his words. "But what about Olivia? What about me?" I asked. Tears welled up in his eyes as he replied, "I love you both so much. Never forget that. But sometimes love isn't enough." He kissed my forehead and then went to Olivia, who was watching with wide, confused eyes. "Be good for your big sister, okay, pumpkin?" And just like that, he left. The door closed behind him, and I felt a void opening up inside me. Mom arrived home an hour later. When I told her Dad had left, she didn't seem surprised. She merely nodded, as if she had expected this. "Good riddance," she muttered. "Mom, how can you say that?" I protested. She turned to me with a cold stare. "Your father cheated on me, Lauren." Repeatedly. I couldn't take it anymore. That night, everything changed. As I lay in bed, I could hear Mom chatting on the phone, laughing and sounding happier than she had in months. I was curious about who she was talking to, but was too exhausted to care. Just when I thought things couldn't get any more complicated, Mom dropped another bombshell. During breakfast one morning, she announced, "I have some news. I'm getting married." Nearly choked on my cereal. "Mom, Dad's only been gone for 3 months," I said, astonished. She waved it off. "Sometimes true love happens unexpectedly, Lauren. You'll understand when you're older." 2 weeks later, Paul moved in. He was tall and handsome in a way that made people say, "Oh, he seems nice," but something about him felt off to me from the start. He made an effort with Olivia, playing games and helping with her homework, but with me, it was as if I didn't exist. Meanwhile, changes were taking place at the company. After Dad left, Mom took over and brought Paul into the business. They seemed to work well together, always engrossed in discussions about new business plans. I tried to focus on my own life, school, friends, and the usual teenage concerns, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was becoming invisible in my own family. Things worsened when Mom and Paul announced they were opening a new branch in another city. One evening, Mom said, "We're moving. It's a great opportunity for the business." Then she added, "Paul, and I think it's best if you stay here." Shocked, I asked, "Stay here without you?" Mom quickly explained that the new house wouldn't have much space and that it wouldn't make sense to transfer me right before my exams. "So where am I supposed to live? On the street?" I asked, trying to hold back tears. "Don't be dramatic, Lauren," Mom scolded. "You'll stay with your grandmother. She's already agreed to it." I stormed off to my room and slammed the door. Lying on my bed, tears of anger and hurt streamed down my face. I wondered when I had become such a burden to my own mother. The following weeks flew by, filled with packing and goodbyes. Not for me, though. Olivia was the one who cried over leaving her friends behind. I tried to stay upbeat for her sake, helping her pack and promising that I'd visit. The day they left, I stood on the porch with Grandma, watching the moving van drive away. Mom gave me a quick hug, and Paul gave a stiff nod before they disappeared. Living with Grandma wasn't as bad as I had imagined. She was supportive, giving me space, but always there with a cup of tea and a listening ear. Still, it didn't feel like home. My 20th birthday arrived faster than I anticipated. That morning, I woke up feeling strangely empty. I should have been excited, but I wasn't. Mom called to wish me a happy birthday, sounding overly cheerful. "I'm sorry we can't be there," she said. "Work is just crazy right now. We'll celebrate next month when we visit." I knew better. They hadn't visited once since moving. Grandma must have sensed my disappointment because she went all out for my birthday. She let me invite friends, order my favorite food, and even baked a cake herself. For a few hours, I almost forgot about everything else. The next morning, Grandma called me in her office with a serious look on her face. "Sit down, Lauren," she said, pointing to the chair across from her desk. "We need to talk." My mind raced with anxiety. Was she going to ask me to leave? But then she smiled and reached into her desk drawer, pulling out a small folder. "Happy birthday, sweetheart. Open it." Did, and my heart nearly stopped when I saw what was inside. "Grandma, is this?" I began. She nodded, her eyes sparkling. "The company is yours now, Lauren. I see potential in you. I know you'll do right by the business. But Mom and Paul are running it now," I said, still in disbelief. Grandma's face tightened. "They're running a branch. The main company, the heart of it all, that's yours now." Sat there, stunned. Me, barely 20, the owner of a multi-million-dollar company? It felt like a dream, or maybe a nightmare. I don't know what to say. Grandma reached across the desk and squeezed my hand. "You don't have to say anything. Just promise me you'll give it your all." I nodded, still in shock. "I will. I promise." Grandma leaned back, satisfied. "Good. Now, I have one more piece of advice for you, and I want you to listen carefully." I leaned in, hanging on her every word. "Call your father. There's more to the story than you know. Talk to him, even if it's just as a consultant. But hear him out." It took me a whole week to muster the courage to call Dad. We arranged to meet at a small cafe downtown. When I saw him, my heart ached. He looked older and tired, but his eyes brightened when he saw me. We sat in silence at first, but then everything spilled out. The divorce, Mom's remarriage, the move, and Grandma's gift. Dad listened quietly, his face a mix of emotions. When I finished, he took a deep breath. "Lauren, there's something you need to know about the divorce," he began. He explained how Mom had never respected him, always belittling him and making him feel worthless. After a major argument, he got drunk and made a huge mistake. He cheated on her. "I regretted it immediately," he said, his voice heavy with guilt. "But your mother used it against me. She threatened to take everything, even you and Olivia. She wanted me to leave, give her all the property, and pay alimony." Was shocked. This didn't sound like the Mom I knew. "Why didn't you fight it?" I asked. Dad looked at me with sadness and love. "Because of you and Olivia. I didn't want you both to go through a messy public divorce. I thought this would be easier." As we talked, it felt like a heavy burden was lifted from my shoulders. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I had my dad back. Before we parted, I took a deep breath and asked, "How would you feel about helping me with the company as a consultant?" His smile was the answer I needed. "I'd be honored." Dad's involvement turned out to be invaluable. He guided me through the complexities of the business, and together we began to turn things around. We worked hard, and soon, the company began to thrive again. Mom and Paul's branch faltered, and I watched as their once promising venture fell apart. In the end, I learned that life doesn't always follow the path we expect. My inheritance wasn't just a company. It was a chance to rebuild my relationship with my father and find my own way in a world that seemed to turn its back on me. And although things with Mom and Paul were strained, I found strength in my new role and in the family I had left. As I stood in the office of the company I now ran, I couldn't help but feel a mix of pride and sorrow. Life had thrown me a curveball, but with the support of my grandmother and the unexpected reconciliation with my father, I was ready to face whatever came next. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more incredible tales and life lessons. And leave a comment below. What would you do if you were in Lauren's shoes?